A judge in Bryan Kohberger's murder case must decide if the gag order is going to be lifted today or not. Earlier this month, Kohberger pleaded guilty to murdering 4 University of Idaho students in November of 2022. And there has been that gag order in place since January of 2023. But now that the trial is no longer happening, several news outlets, including NewsNation, have filed a motion to lift that order. Joining me now is NewsNation legal contributor Jesse Weber. Jesse, big day ahead here. That judge has already said he wanted to keep the gag order in place until his sentencing next week. But what about after that? And is there any legal reason to keep it if there's not going to be a trial?
I don't think that there is. Look, when I read the brief from the Media Coalition, they're very compelling arguments. Number one, he's no longer going to trial. So any concern that you release information that could jeopardize his right to a fair trial, that could jeopardize him getting a fair and impartial jury, that's moot. That doesn't exist anymore. And if you wait till after sentencing, I don't think that the judge is going to hear arguments today and say, I'm going to be lifting the gag order or unsealing records before sentencing. Seems highly unlikely. Whatever justification there is, and I've heard it and I'm just not sold by it, there's a justification, well, you know, the attorneys on both sides are going to be getting an influx of media requests. They need time to properly prepare. I don't think I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
Remember the counter argument here. This is a case that has been shrouded in secrecy. I think the public has a right to understand fully the evidence. They have a right to understand what the investigation was. They have a right to understand what led Bryan Kohberger to ultimately enter a guilty plea. Because if you don't have that, then are we ever going to really know what the conclusion of this case was? And not even for us. What about the families who deserve answers? And
Correct.
I think that is key.
Yeah, it seems to me like you've had nearly 3 years to prepare for whatever the media has coming your way. If the gag order does get dropped, obviously it allows prosecutors, defense attorneys to speak publicly. What do you see as the biggest questions that crime junkies still want answered, those families still want answered, and also what evidence might that open up to the public?
Number one, why? Right? Why did Bryan Kohberger do this? I am hoping that there is something in the prosecution's case file that goes a little bit more towards motive. Now, remember, prosecutors didn't have to prove motive. They just had to prove that he committed this crime. But I have to imagine they had more there to sell a story to the jury. And I think that that big question mark is key. It's also important the prosecutors get, you know, why did they explain to the families before the guilty plea in the way that they did through an email? I think that they need to be questioned about that. I think they need to be questioned about a lot of the investigative methods that were used in this case. And for the defense, look, I'm an attorney. Everybody's entitled to a defense. But there was something that really didn't sit right with me that, 4 days, 5 days, a week before he pled guilty, he was planning an alternative perpetrator defense, basically pointing the finger at multiple innocent people. I would love to speak to I would love the defense attorneys to explain that one.
And no more there. They'd also be able to talk about the Papa Roger account, right? I mean, that's that social media account that was active in chiming in for justice for the victims. That a lot of people have a hunch was Kohberger all along and has since gone silent. Nobody's ever come forward to claim responsibility for that mysterious account that seemed to, I mean, Jesse, like know things before they were made public. Where would that get us if it was in fact him?
Well, again, it goes to his mindset because he's like an emotionless robot. We have no idea what he's thinking. But that's why that Dateline special was so interesting, learning a little bit more about his social media activity, his movements. What was his connection to anyone in that house? What was he thinking about this case? You know, what was he researching? What was his game plan? If we can get those answers, I think that that is going to be, again, not only beneficial for us as a country who've been following this case, but most importantly, the families who still, I believe, are not being treated properly in this case and really are not getting the kind of resolution and answers that they need to put this to bed. And that's the biggest thing. Now, there's no guarantee that that information, that the records will be unsealed. There's no guarantee the prosecutors will speak to the media. There's no guarantee the defense attorneys will speak to the media. But I think lifting the gag order, unsealing records would be in the best interest of everyone involved.
Yeah, and at least opens the door for the possibility of finding out more. We'll be watching that judge today and see what he decides. Jesse Weber, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.